Hi everybody, welcome to another video. This one is candy. Now I've done one before on candy and it was the first proper time, well I say first, probably the second actually, but the first video I've done of using candy. And this is a candy concentrate, so it's not the stuff you buy in a tin, it's a powder. Now I'll try and remember to put the link to the other one in if you want to see the mixing the powder, etc. But obviously I've already done it once, so I thought it was pointless doing it again. But what I've found with the powders is that you can get a little bit of residue. I pre-mix it, keep it in a bottle so that it's already mixed up, so that if I need to add any more, I know it's the right consistency. Because obviously if you're mixing it, you could get it wrong really. So I keep it all made up in a bottle. But literally, well, I say the powders. I had some like little bits in there, and I filter the paint with a 190 micron filter. So I bought some 125 micron filters, which obviously are finer, and that seems to have done the trick. So a little tip: if you're using these concentrates, get yourself a fine filter. A 125 has been ideal for me and seems to work fine. So using the LPH 80, I've skipped quite a lot of the well, not the stages, but quite a lot of the footage, just to try and keep the video to a reasonable length. Otherwise it would have been about 55 minutes, and I didn't really want to put loads of music on between narrations, so I've whittled it down to what I think I can handle really. So all I'm doing is I'm trying to show what difference the base colour makes to the overall finish. So we've got a silver tank. It's a Mercedes 744 silver, and I'm just putting a piece of fine line tape down the to one side, so that we can have one part in silver, Mercedes 744 silver, and the other one in a gold, which isn't a car gold. It's a gold that I get from a company that makes the paint up, a company called Newagen Paints, and they make this gold up, and it's a really bright gold, so it's good for underneath stuff like this. So what I've done is, as you see, I'm sectioning it off. So we're going to have one side silver, or 3/4 of a side, or 2/3 of a side's gold, and the other one silver. But just to see what the difference it makes when the candy's over the top. So you see that I'm being reasonably careful with everything here. And one thing I'll say to you is, if you're going to do candies, make sure everything you do is tested, second tested, and wiped again, if that makes sense. So everything needs to be correct, because there's quite a lot of work involved in doing a fuel tank or whatever. Obviously if you're doing 4 or 5 pieces, it's not much difference really, because I suppose it is for the prep, but the actual amount of work isn't loads more, because the spraying etc is the easy bit. It's the preparation to make sure everything's clean, because if you invest, say, I don't know, 4 hours in something, and then you make a mistake or something doesn't go right, it's a lot of work and effort to throw away to start again. So just be meticulous in what you do when you're doing stuff like this, because 10 minutes spent doing something can save you 3 or 4 hours spent having to do it again. So that would be the one thing I'm sort of like finding with the more involved projects. I know it's only a fuel tank at the end of the day, but the principle's the same for everything. So LPH 80, quick word on the LPH 80. Not my favourite minigun, a very, very good minigun, very well made. I really, really do like it. Just a quick one, while you see me, this has got one layer of paint on, and there was a speck there. So I thought I could get that out without any trouble, which I did. And then you see me just put a little bit of extra paint over the top there. But once you get too far down the line, you won't be able to do that, because you'll mark the paint. So if you do get a bit in there, just carry on putting some layers on until you get rid of it, really. I mean, it depends what it is, but the other day I had a fly land in there, and that's the real problems, because they don't die instantly either. They move, so they leave a little trail. But anyway, you know, just be as careful as you can, really. And you see that little, it's like a little pin on the end of a rod. That was something I bought, a used spray gun. And that was in the kit that comes with it. The guy, you know, was basically finishing what he was doing, and sent me all that as well. And that's been invaluable. It's a really, really good little tool. I haven't seen them again, but I'm sure you can get them. It's effectively, as I say, like a pin on the end of a metal rod, but very, very handy. So I'm sorry. Anyway, I was saying the LPH80. So the LPH80. For something like this, it's fine, because it's not a big tank. It's about 3 gallons, I think, maybe slightly more. So it's not a huge fuel tank. And for the base colours, like the silver and the gold, and I do the candy with this as well, it's absolutely fine. As you see it now, with the golds and the silvers, it's on full fan, full fluid, and 1.1 bar, which is a little bit over what it's supposed to be used at. It's supposed to be used at 1.1 bar, sorry, 1.0 bar, so 1 bar, which is, what's that, about 15 psi, but I'm using it about 17 psi, so 1.2 bar. And I just prefer it with just a little bit more air. You know, it probably doesn't make that much difference, it's just personal taste, I guess. But with the clear, I actually have it about 1.3 bar, which is, you know, getting on for about the maximum you can have it. If you wind it up too much, the fan starts to separate. Even with the correct viscosity fluid in it, the fan will start to separate, and it can flutter. So it's a good idea to with these things to not go too mad with the pressure, because you're saying to yourself, well, it's only 1 bar. Surely it can take more than that, but it's designed to take 1 bar, so you don't want to go mad. One thing you do notice with this is how little overspray there is. There's a few of the spray guns recently I've been using, and one of them's the W300 WB I've got, and that operates at 1.5 bar. The LPH50 I've recently got, and this LPH80 I've had for a while. And I am noticing that with which is obvious, I suppose, with the lower pressures, you get much less in the way of overspray, etc. Which for the guy at home may be quite a good idea. You know, if you've only got a small setup and you don't want lots of, well, nobody wants lots of overspray, I guess, but you want to keep the overspray to the minimum, then some of these smaller guns, as long as you're not doing big things, may be ideal. You see here, I'm just taking down the high spots, and just use a card like that. Just use a credit card or something, just to run it, and just keep the card at a slight angle, and it just takes the high spots down of the paint. When you remove the tape, you want to do it within about after about half an hour, so the paint has dried to the touch effectively, but it's still supple, and that's the best way I find to take the tank off. You don't want to let it dry completely, because you'll end up chipping it if you leave it for too long, and if it's too wet you can do the same thing. It can still pull. So I find about half an hour at say 20 degrees Celsius is ideal for it. So we're starting off with the first of the candy coats, which is a green. Now I was a little bit apprehensive, because there's a few greens I like, a few metallic greens, but I wasn't quite sure how this was going to come out. And you'll see at the end there's like a high resolution video of the whole thing finished at the end. And I particularly like the gold side, but it really does show you how different, which is the idea of the video, how different the base can make the top colour. You know, because we're using a green over the top, and it's the same green for both sides, but it really does make a difference. And I personally much prefer the one with the gold underneath than the silver. You know, when you're doing candies, people use different colours, but gold and silver the two sort of commonly used ones. And I've got a video, or a couple of videos actually, that I've done with various size flakes as well, and then putting candy over the top. So you know, I'll get those up when I can, but they take quite a lot of narration, and there's quite a lot of footage there, because you know, this is condensed into what, 20 odd minutes, but it's you know, it's a full probably 4 hours, 5 hours work, when you know, you're taking into account of allowing the stuff to dry, etc, etc. So there's quite a lot of work involved. The gun settings, as I said before, the base coats, it's full fan, full fluid. The candy, the first coat I did 1.5 turns out, then 2.5 turns out, and then 3 turns out for the rest. And I actually give it about 8 coats. I've skipped some of them because, you know, it's same old, I guess. I've skipped some of them, so it's you'll notice it get like darker without me spray or seeming to spray, but it's just because I've skipped some, that's all. But it's interesting because I had one of the chaps that contributes regularly to the channel, very knowledgeable, was saying the way I'm doing it isn't the normal way. Incorrect may be the wrong word, but not the normal way. And I am familiar with what the normal way should be, although I've hardly done any candy. I am familiar what it is. You know, you've got to keep the gun the same distance away from the object, which is fine here. I mean, it's not a flat panel or anything, so you're not going to be exactly on. But the idea is that you sort of like run from left to right or across and overlap. I thought it was normally about 75%. He said 80, but 75%, something like that. And you've got to keep speed the same, everything the same, to keep the amount of colour, which is obvious really, I suppose, to keep the amount of colour the same. Otherwise you're going to get darker patches or lighter patches. And I have since done it another candy colour and did it that way, and it came out absolutely fine. But having said that, doing it this way, it comes out absolutely fine. So maybe it's because it's a small object, I don't know, but it as long as you know what you're doing, and by that I don't mean know what you're doing spraying candy, I mean know where you've done, if that makes sense, so you're not going over the same piece over and over again. It seems to go on fine, and not getting any stripes or, you know, dark patches or light patches. So yeah, maybe there's, as we say in the UK, presumably you do everywhere, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You know, you can do the same thing different ways. And a lot of things, when I do things, it's the way I do them. It's not to say I'm right or I'm wrong, it's just the way I do them. And if I do them like that and they work all right for me, then that's great. For some people they won't be all right, and for some people they will. So I'm just, the idea of me doing this channel is just to instill a bit of information into people that, you know, when I try something and experiment with something, if I did it on my own, I would just be literally doing it and keeping the information to myself. So if I do it with a video, you know, a video camera on my head, then you share it around, and I'm learning things, and hopefully other people are learning things as well. But you know, as I say, there's more than one way to do something, I think. What you'll notice with this, when we get to the clear coat, which I don't think is too long, but when we get to the clear coat, you'll notice for me, the real downfall with this gun, because up to now it's been quite a pleasure to use, because it you know, as I say, it's not a huge item. It puts the stuff on really well. Not loads of overspray, very controlled, exactly as you'd want it. But for the clear coat, if I wasn't doing a video, people that have seen my videos will know that I've got a whole arsenal of spray guns. I would much rather reach for something that pumps it out a bit more than this when it comes to clear coat time, because it just takes so long, and it's laborious. I mean, I love spraying, but it's just hard work. You'll see in a minute. You have to go over and over and over the same thing just to get the clear to flow. But anyway, I suppose that's the way life is sometimes. So I hope you're enjoying the videos. I'm trying to do something a little bit different every now and again, rather than just sort of like something v something and, you know, stuff like that. I know people like the videos where you're pitting two guns together, and I quite like doing that, but I didn't want it to just be that all the time. I mean, obviously you run out of guns, I guess, eventually. Oh, I suppose there's loads of combinations, isn't there? But I didn't want it to be just like that all the time. So I'm, you know, just trying different things and different ways of doing it, and to see, well, see whether you guys like them or not, really. But I was really surprised by the amount of difference the base colour makes. I mean, you can see it now starting to take on like a totally different colour. One's much warmer and one's much colder. But I was surprised, you know, when I finished, how much difference it made. And it's a good way of thinking, making you think of what base colour to use, rather than just say silver, because I've got a few silvers. This is, as I said before, a Mercedes 744, which is quite a light, bright silver, which is probably ideal for something like this. But I've also got, it was a Honda, I can't remember, NH something, or HN something. Sorry, I can't remember, but it's quite a darker silver. Silver virgin on gunmetal really. And I've done another one of these tanks in the two silvers, just to see what difference the two silvers would make. And I must admit, putting the two silvers together, I did a couple of coach lines on it and that, just to make it a bit different and just to sort of show it more obviously, I suppose. And the difference in the silvers, like, made me think, well, it'd really be nice to do a bike in a few different silvers, and then just clear the silver, not put candy on it, just clear the silver, because it's quite marked how different it is. So yeah, I mean, I would quite like to do that, I think, so I will have a go at that. But, you know, just when you say silver base, there's lots of different silvers, so you want something bright, really. I think something that's a bit sort of like poppy, so that it makes it stick out. It reminded me, this green, it reminded me of a Kawasaki green. I don't know what Kawasaki green it is, but they use it on some of the more modern super bikes, and that is a candy colour. You'll see it at the end, but it's actually in the sunshine, and it just really makes it pop. It's a lovely, lovely colour. So yeah, I mean, you can obviously add more or less of the candy to make it more darker green or lighter green with the gold or silver coming through, obviously. But, you know, I preferred it. Well, I thought I'd got it spot on for what it is, and so I really like it. Whether I could replicate it exactly the same again, I don't know, but that's where I suppose doing 2 or 3 coats on the full fluid would come in, because once you've done, you know, one part in 3 coats of full fluid, you'd know to do the other part. But as I say, doing it this way, I don't think it'd be that difficult to replicate it on most things, to be honest, because, you know, it's certainly bike related anyway. If you've got some side panels or fairing panels, things like that, I don't think you would have any trouble evening it up as far as the candy over the top goes, as long as I say, you keep an idea of where you've been and where you haven't. If you start doing the same side 2 or 3 times to once to the other, then of course it's going to look odd, but it doesn't seem to be too difficult as far as I'm finding it. But as I say, it's only a small motorcycle tank, isn't it? So you'll see, this is what I was saying about with the clear. It really takes some time to get the clear on, and it makes it more difficult. I mean, someone said to me about the LPH 80, oh, if you know what you're doing, you can do a panel with it. You know, I think I know enough of what I'm doing to do a panel with it, certainly these days. But would you enjoy it? Not really, no, because you can see it's, oh, I think it's laborious. It's just, you know, very, very, yeah, it's just not an ideal gun for clear. Up until this point, the gun had been performing admirably, really well, and I do like it. It's a lovely little gun, but I just think when you're doing things like tanks and that, it's maybe just a little bit too much for it. But if this is the biggest thing you do and the rest of the stuff you do is smaller, ideal gun, I guess. So anyway, this is the end result, and you can see what I mean about the different colours. And it was a time of year when we hadn't had loads of sunshine in the UK, so this was about the best I could get as far as sun goes. But you can see, lovely, lovely colour. I really enjoyed doing it. One of my favourite colours, I think. I got a purple one coming up, which is actually quite good. But there you go. Obvious how different it is. Much prefer the gold, in my opinion. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching all the videos and putting up with me rambling on. Much appreciated. And thanks for all the likes, subscriptions, etc., etc. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much. Bye-bye now.